Hey, this is Max. I'm back with another CSR2 video. Tonight I am going to show you how to make it through Tempest 3 T5 with two of my favorite cars. Both are simple 3-star T5 cars that you can pull from crates, but you can build to max utilizing dealership cars. Here you see them, the Huracan Coupe, which is a 3-star. And in the back there is the Ferrari F12, also a 3-star. Both of these were built to max utilizing buying and stripping cars in the dealership. Took about 35 Hurricanes back in the day to max out this car, and about 30, maybe 31 F12s to go ahead and get that car maxed. However, in the process, you also accumulate tons of common, rare, and some extra epic fusions, depending on how hard that last one was to get. And same goes for the Ferrari. So there are many Ferraris and Lamborghinis in the game, so you definitely want to buy and strip these. You will always be able to benefit from the fusions you get from it. So let's take a look at the difficulty ratings of T5, Tier 5 Tempest 3. In my opinion, this is a very easy, in fact, the easiest of the 5 tiers that you have to deal with. You start off at a pretty high PP rating of 685, and it goes up from there, jumping to 692, 699, 707, and ultimately 717, which no max car would reach. So that essentially means you can run a fully maxed car at that point. There are only two types of challenges in Tier 5, unlike the other tiers. You actually don't have to deal with 0 to 60. You only deal with 0 to 100 and speed traps. And the 0 to 100 and speed traps in this case are really not that difficult. You start off at 685 pp with nothing more than having to hit a basic 220 mile per hour and a 3.562 0 to 100. Well, let me tell you some about the Huracan. It is a fast accelerating car, so hitting 0 to 60 and 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds is, nothing for this car. At 685, it could probably do it. What I do is I tend to drop body first, and you notice I did that also with the Miata, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the piece you drop. Main reason I drop out a particular modification or a particular body part or nitrous is because what I look at is, how many points, one, these upgrade stages tend to take away, and two, I like to keep nitrous as high as possible for almost all my builds because it's one of the more important things to most cars. In this case, because we know that the target numbers are based on 0 to 100 and speed trap, you want to keep your power level up. So you notice I left the engine, I left the turbo, and I left most of the intake in and full nitrous. That is because I intend to hit that 220 mile per hour with the car that's not known for a very high top speed. I dropped the tires to stage 3 and trans to stage 4, and there's a reason I did that. The Huracan, surprisingly, with a full stage 6 trans, tops out quicker, versus a stage 4 trans, it tops out slower and actually lets you hit a higher top speed. Let's take a look at what the computer is telling us we can do. I set the top of the final gear right to where I want it to be, about 225, 230. Keep the tire pressure down enough that the car is not bogging down. If you make it too low, you start to lose evo, and also that means you're going to get a slower top speed. So you want to give yourself enough acceleration to hit top speed. So as it sits, the computer is saying 223. So the other thing about the Huracan is it starts to run out of steam as soon as nitrous disappears. So you want to keep your nitrous duration up. So let's take a look at that dyno again, 1.976. Let me tell you this, at 707 pp bracket, your 0 to 100 is only a 2.313. So this car will get through the 0 to 100. So I'm not even going to stress about that. All I'm really focused on when I tune this car each stage is only for that speed trap. And that right now is at 220 miles per hour. Let me show you how I would do it. Basically, third gear or fourth gear nitrous, because what you want to do is make sure nitrous is on it all the way through the traps, because as soon as it's off, you notice the speed starts to drop. So you want to start the nitrous late. Fourth gear nitrous, look at this, 2.245. I didn't even use nitrous to get that. Okay, so if you use nitrous second gear, you would hit like at 1.9 something. So again, no problem beating the 0 to 100s all the way through. 227 mile per hour, you just made it through the speed trap. Congratulations, there's your first 10 races. The actual challenges for the opponent's running times are not really that difficult until the very end, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So the next bracket is 692. That's not much of a bump. Okay, 692 from 685 is about a 7-point bump. One stage of a little bit of intake will probably get you a nice bump, and now you can start to add your tire back in. The only thing I would ask you not to upgrade is the trans. And again, once you hit stage 6 transmission, you're actually going to gimp yourself when it comes to the speed trap. So you want to just kind of leave that alone and hit your 692 right now without getting any additional transmission gearing. You go to Dyno, it'll tell you 230. Your target number for this one is a 2.560 0 to 100 and a 235 mile per hour. Well, 235. Let's move it up a little bit. It says 229. Uh-oh, it slowed down. What about here? 232. That can't be good. Let's give it up to 250 and see what the computer's saying. So the computer's telling us you're not going to do well at this speed because the car's not supposed to do 240 some miles per hour. But 230 is doable. It's saying top speed is 232. We want top speed to at least be capable of 235, but let's say it won't do that on paper here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase nitrous duration. Notice some here, 236. Ooh. 237, and now we can hit 235. Why? Because you're going to be on nitrous at the end of the track. That is the key with this car. You must not be off nitrous when you cross the finish line. So that means you don't need to worry about accelerating quick. It's already doing it. You're just going to kind of run through the first 2, 3, or in fact 4 gears off of nitrous, and then you jump on it and let the car kind of push its way through utilizing nitrous. And there's a 242 run right there. That just got you through the 698 pp range target. So if you don't want to really play with the car settings too much and you're confident you can hit that, you can move on up to the next bracket without an issue. Now, 698 bracket, the 0 to 100 challenge is a 2.342. So this says you're not hitting it yet, but of course we didn't hit nitrous in second gear. If we drive this car normally for the best possible time you can get out of it, you would in fact launch it and hit nitrous in second gear. So you would do a basic launch and drive it like that for the faster acceleration. That's not the best drive. I probably didn't even hit dyno, but I'll tell you this, the 0 to 100 was very quick. So the car is now running 10.5s. 1.70 to 100, but only doing 231. Now your target number is 235 for this one. So, but we saw the 242, so that's fine. Now you want to keep upgrading because your opponents will get faster. So when you get to 298 bracket, you don't want to just leave the car alone. You want to start upgrading it to the next point. And that again is you can add more of the parts that would make a difference. We can start adding some body to the car now, and it will bump it up pretty quick as you do that. Okay, 697. You probably won't be able to do another upgrade without bumping over 698, so let's keep it at 697. The body actually for this car is pretty impressive. It does drop the times quite a bit. So those few stage of body jumped from 10.5 to a 10.2. Your ultimate goal is to hit 8 point something. So we'll talk about that as well in a little bit. But now your 0 to 100 is going to simply crush whatever the target number is. And notice it's saying you can hit 240 already. And that is in fact your goal on this one for the speed trap. You can actually tweak it a little bit, just a hair, and give yourself a little bit of a margin. And again, if you drive it with the nitrous late, as we set it up with the other bracket, it'll be the same way, 8 point some seconds. Just kind of drive it and don't use the nitrous early. Just keep it going late. You can even use it starting 5th because you still have enough time to get to both the target number and through the traps. So there's no problem to hit 245 now, which we're starting to get to the tougher numbers here, okay? Because after 240, which is the one that you need to hit for this bracket, it'll jump to 250. Ooh, 250. I'm not sure this car can do it. Well, I think it can. And that again goes back to not making the transmission too upgraded. So the next bracket tier would be you're jumping up to 707. That's almost to max, right? 714 is max for most of the T5 cars. So now you can really push up your tires. You can now push more body mod, making the car lighter technically. Not that it, it just gives the car better numbers. It's all it really comes down to. So 707, stage 4 trans, 1548. We're getting pretty good numbers now with the Evo without even really playing with the tuning too much. Mind you, the car's getting quicker. Okay, 9.2 now. You're almost at the target number to beat the boss, which is like a 9.0. So you're going to move Nitrous down a little bit to give yourself a little bit of a better margin. Now, your target number is higher. It's 250, so you have to put it up here where you're past 250. And there you go. 260 to be reached. 260 is your final speed trap, and you have already managed it at 707. Driven the same way. The 2.3130 to 60, 0 to 100, I think would be a no-brainer. Should be nothing for this car to hit. And off we go. Whoops. Oh, this is, by the way, where it gets really quick in that first gear. So we'll talk about that too. Because you could easily screw yourself out of a win if your car is barely making it into the 8s against the boss and you don't launch it and drive it right. Notice I did a really poor run. 263 mile per hour though, and a 1.7160 to 100. You will beat the final target numbers for the challenges. Now let's talk about the boss fight. You're going to have to beat this guy. This guy's going to run a 9.0. 9.0. That's not something that's easily hit by some T5 cars with stage 6s installed, even missing fusions. Well, this car only is now missing 2 stages of transmission. So we're at 9.2 on the dyno. So what is 2 stages of transmission going to do for it? You'd be surprised. Once you get this 2 stage of transmission in and you put that nitrous to where it is more powerful, you can get some pretty impressive numbers out of this car performance-wise. And I'm not even tuning it to maximum points here. I think it hits that around 20 something, 27, 25. All right, right around there. All right. Watch what this car does. 8.4. You can probably do better than that. I haven't really tuned it too carefully, but I do recall record runs on this car somewhere around 8.2. Okay, so it's 0.2, not 0.4 that people have reached. Now, you don't need to reach that. All I'm showing you really is you want this in order to beat the boss. So that last stage of transmission really comes into play at the very end because it pushes you through. Now, what if you're missing some S6s? Well, let's take a look what happens when you only have a stage 5 trans. I do this with a lot of PC cars. I'm actually going to show you this with this car because I anticipate newer players may not have a fully maxed Huracan, and you want to know what your margins are. It drops it by a lot when you don't have the trans. You're now at 8.891. The difficulty with this is this car is really hard to drive to hit dyno until you get some practice in. So if you're already at 8.9 and you screw up in any way, you may end up with a much worse drive. Now I got a 0 RPM drop, and you notice this car is not tuned specifically to do anything fancy, and it was still a very close call. So give yourself a better margin. Okay, 9.018. You're going to be stressed if you were actually using this car on that particular race against the boss. So do some practice. Make sure that you can hit the numbers. So transmission's important. It's one of the power things that really kicks this car into gear. Tire, which is also very important. You watch the big Evo drop as I put it out, isn't going to impact you hopefully as much as the trans, and it doesn't. So if you don't have stage 6 tire, you don't have to stress. With an 8.5 dyno, you can run an 8.9, 8.8, still beat the boss. Now, what about body? Well, the body actually, I think, is more important for this car than some of the other mods. It just seems that this car likes the extra lightweight at the end. If you notice, we had a 200-point drop in Evo without fine tuning. So you just dropped from 8.4 to a 9.0. So you definitely want that as 6 body. As usual, I suspect the intake turbo probably will be the minimal effect, but tire's not that important. So this too is probably not going to be important. Nitrous will be important. Now, nitrous probably won't drop you huge amounts, but the Evo drop will tell you the story, and it is a decent amount of Evo drop, and that's going to kill off easily 3/4 in the time. And that's because duration dies when you pull it off, and then if you put it back up, this car, remember, it starts to decelerate when you run out of nitrous. So duration is very important. So without fine tuning, you're looking at easily a 5/10 drop. So nitrous, definitely something that is worth trying to make sure you have. So again, you really need this car pretty much fusioned up with most of your stage 6 to really make it. You can sacrifice tire if you just don't have it. I'm pretty sure if you're missing intake or turbo, you're not going to lose out a whole lot. I don't even think engine's that big a deal, but nitrous, body, transmission, big deal. Okay, if you lose those, you're gonna, this barely changed it, so you're fine. You don't have stage 6 intake, don't stress about it. You don't have stage 6 turbo, I think would be the same way. You don't have to stress about it. So those two things, not that important. Well, now you remove, too expensive. Okay, hold on, refit. Whew. All right. Turbo, again, we'll do the dyno, but I'm pretty positive turbo's going to have a minor impact on the car. Yeah, less than maybe a 500. It's a big deal. Okay, so you can have no intake, no turbo, no tire probably, and still make it. In fact, in a second, I'm going to show you with all 3 stage 6 missing what you can do. Engine probably has a little more impact, and it sure looked like it does. That might be a 2/3 drop. There's 4 fusions in there too, so that is going to be more impactful, and it's like a 3/10 drop. So no engine definitely hurts you, but not having them, don't forget, could also affect your ability to get that 260 mile per hour. So there's a greater overall impact than just not having individual stage 6, but I'm just kind of showing you what the least impactful ones are. So let's say we have these 3 missing. Okay, tire, intake, turbo. Really shouldn't affect too much. It should still allow you to get through all the challenges without much of a headache. 8.8, well, I take it back. That's kind of close with this car. This is no issue. This might be an issue, but if you notice, it does say your top speed is still 261. So you could tune it to hit that 261. The key is this. If you can't beat that time, or if I can't tune it to beat that time, which I still should be able to tune it better than where it was there. 8.7s feel a lot safer. Let's see if without you lower the tire grip a little bit, you can probably bump it to 8.6. Yep, okay, now we feel safer. I mean, this I think I can do. Again, that first gear is hell. It goes so quick that on slow devices, you can't even catch it. And yeah, you don't want to launch it all the way perfect because you'll get that 0 RPM drop. Okay, so 262. So you can hit the 260 with this setup too because you just saw it. All you have to do is don't use nitrous as early as I did, and you hit 260 on the final drive. So 8.859, that'll beat the boss. That's fine. 260. We don't need a 247 because the RPMs dropped after you lost nitrous. So all you need to do is put that to this, and you should have no problem getting 262. So there is your Huracan Tier 5. Because you're only dealing with 0 100 and top speed, very, very simple to do with this car. And it's a great car, and it's, if you have a little patience, if you're just not quite maxed yet, um, earn some money, buy dealership cars, strip them, and you can do it. So that brings me to the other car that I really like, which is the F12. The F12 struggles in Tempest 2 at the 692 bracket, where it has to do a 0 to 60. So a lot of people kind of got stuck on that because of both of the PP limitation and the 0 to 60. Well, good news for you, you don't have to deal with that in this particular setting. So for the F12, I kind of start off the same way. I focus on F12 already has the tire spinning start. You want to keep that tire up, you keep the nitrous up. Again, I drop the body. I drop the stage of transmission, engine, turbo, and as much intake as I can to make that point. Now, 0 to 100, okay, is hit by this car in one gear. And you can tune it to that. I see, yeah, I see the negative 300. Ignore that for a second. If you put the first gear to 100 mile per hour and you look, the computer's telling you it takes 4.258 seconds. No, I'll never make the target number of 3.5 that way. Well, actually, that's not true. This is one of those weird cars that you kind of have to ignore what the dyno is telling you because it'll surprise you. So basically, to get 0 to 100 with this car, you can just kind of go like this. Whoops, I screwed that up. Okay, let me redo that. 6,000 RPM launch. I launched a little too early there. So you do a 6,000 RPM launch, and you just hit nitrous, let the car get to 100 miles per hour, you're done. Now, what I was trying to do, actually, I was trying to put it right near 5,500. That kind of backfired, so I'm going to go ahead and do 6, hit the nitrous, and I'm done. Okay, so that is the easiest way to do the 0 to 100 with this car, and you can do that pretty much all the way through because, as we'll see in a second, you look at the numbers. Okay, it'll do a 2.259. The fastest you have to do a 0 to 100 in the entire T5 is a 2.313. So we're done. Okay, we can hit that number without worrying at all. So what about the mile per hour? Well, the mile per hour at 685 is 220. You already did 237 with a negative 300 evo. So I don't think it'll be a problem. So as we bump it up, really all we care about again is how's the mile per hour doing as we bump the car up? Well, you already did 230 something, right? The next bracket at 692 is 235 miles per hour. Wow. Let's add some more stuff in. Let's put some body on there. Let's bump up the power a little more. Maybe maybe I can get away with the stage. Now, 2 points, I'm not going to get away with the stage 6. So let's see if we can get away with the stage 3. Yes, we can. Oh no, now we got to pay for it. Okay, no. All right. And I'm not sure stage 4 bodies can only give 2 PP points, but there's hope. Nope, there isn't. Okay, so you can just leave it kind of like this if you want. 690. Can I sneak it in? Oh man. All right. All right. So 690. I'll do it at 690. So at this bracket at 692, you have to hit a 2.560 0 to 100. And you have to hit a top speed of 235 miles per hour. Now, mind you, you also have to race people. So let's talk about making the car actually drive well. This car never runs real high final gear. Ignore this number a little bit. This is unlike most other cars where you want to get maximum number like this. Okay, maximum theoretical run is 11.6, but what you want to do is you want to put that tune to that number, find out where it is, what's the speed where it goes the best. Looks like about 230. Yeah, about 235. So that's where you want to be, right? Now, to go the fastest, put 5th gear where that is, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure I'm counting right. Okay. 5th gear. Okay. Dyno says 12.2. Ah, 12.2. But it'll be Dyno. So you won't run a 12.2. You will actually run a 11 something, where the 7th gear top end, but you hit nitrous right away. And I shifted too early. You hit nitrous right away. You let it go through to through first, and just basically shift at deep good, and you will get your best run out of it. Even with the screw up, I just ran a 11.1. Okay, 2.128, good. 242, good. 11.11, good. Hmm. Maybe you should use the F12. It's actually easier than the Huracan. All right, let's go to the next bracket. 698 at 240 mile per hour. Did we just beat that? I thought I just beat that. I didn't even have to go to 698 now. Well, anyway, I'll put it to 698. So let's put some more power down. Now, I recall the body stage 4 didn't bump it by too much. It was like 3 points. And turbo stage 6 was like 3 points. Bam, 698. I like it. All right, so now we're at 698. And again, you can do the same thing you did before. You take a look at the dyno. Okay, 260 mile per hour. So this car will hit speed traps no problem. Let's find out what its highest points it is at now. About 250, I would say. Okay, so we put 5th gear there. Ah! Stop doing that. What is it doing? The mouse is skipping, sorry. All right, okay. 250, right? You can actually run a shorter duration nitrous with a more aggressive launch. It'll give you a little bit extra. I don't think it makes a huge difference, so I tend to just leave it around 6 point something. Just leave it there. All right, dyno says 11.9. You can actually lower the grip a little and actually do a little better. But again, the car's going to spin its tires. So 11.9 is what the computer is saying. And let's see what we're actually running. And again, launch at 6K, or 6.5K actually is more optimal, right around 6.5, which is on 1. Hit nitrous and deep good shifts. And these are not frantic shifts like the Huracan. These are casual shifts. You just, yeah, I'm just shifting when I feel like it. Let's see. 10.5, 1.977, all target numbers met. So there's almost no adjustment you need to do once you set it up. You just run it through the 10 races at 698, and now you're up to 707. You're already beating all the numbers except for maybe actual race times at 698. So you can basically race until you find the opponents are running really close to you on time, and then bump it up to 707. So what are you going to do for 707? Well, let's put the trans up and see what happens. Let's put engine to max. And let's bump up some more intake, add some more power here. 706. Okay, 706. We should be in good shape. Let's not play with it too much. Once again, top Evo. Where is it? Where can this car hit its top performance? So a little past 250. So you put 5th gear right about there. That might not be optimal tune, but that's going to do well. All right, dyno is going to scare you a little bit. Still says 11.1, but it's now doing 277, 3107. Remember, you need, at this point, a 2313, okay? So let's see what it actually does. 23130 to 100, 250 mile per hour, and that's the target. So let's see if we need to fine tune left and right for this or not. Oh, what did I just do? Oh well. That was bad. I actually shifted and nitrous at the same time. It's going to cost me a little bit, but let's see if it really hurts you any. No, not really. Okay, I probably would have ran a 9 something if I didn't shift out of that, but I'll let you play with it to get the best time. But again, Nitrous, as soon as you launch, ride it through deep good shifts. Okay, so that brings us to the final point. This car hits about an 8 point something maxed. So unlike the Huracan, you probably won't have the margin of error of playing around with missing stage 6s. Okay, so you really want this car basically fully maxed for taking on the final boss. And in that setting, what you can do is you could run the world record tune, which I don't recall off the top of my head, but my strategy is still always the same. I just find the best point where the computer says the car does the best, which is about 302. So you put fifth gear right to about 302. Tells you a 10.054. Play with the tire settings, see if the numbers will go up or down. You obviously want it where it goes up. I think 26 will be good. And you can finalize your nitrous number. Now you're going for all-out performance. So you want to finalize the numbers where it does the best, 10.032. The boss runs a 9 flat. That's kind of scary, right? Well, yes, but remember, this is that car that naturally tunes weird. It just looks like it performs really poorly, and then it surprises you with phenomenal performance. Now, again, I'm shifting out of first two quick out of habit because I haven't been driving this car as much recently, but I just did another mistake at the end there, which is I shifted out of fifth gear. You should ride it through in fifth. That was an 8.983. That's a little close. I think you should definitely practice a little bit and don't end up with a 9 point something. But let me try not to shift early, and I won't shift out of fifth this time, and let's see where the car goes from there. Still shifted kind of early out of first, just bad habit of mine. So now I'm just going to ride it through in fifth instead of shifting to sixth. 8.936. So a little bit better. Really, you should be looking for an 8.8 run. 8.8 is about the best you're going to get out of it. But if you can consistently hit 8.9s, you'll be pretty safe. So out of the two cars, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. The F12 is much easier to set up and tune for each of the challenges. You basically would just drive it once you set it up and you get through all 10 races. But at the very, very end, it's a little more challenging and a little more nerve-wracking when you're facing a boss race to try to win that. So 8.901, okay? So that's the F12, and earlier we saw the Huracan. The Huracan's benefit is that when it's maxed, it will do the job because it can run an 8.4. So you won't be stressed as much when you face the boss in the final race, but it takes a little more trick and driving differences to make those target times. Both these cars will absolutely make 0 to 100 once without a problem. It's just a Huracan. You need to keep nitrous going to maintain the top speed and hit that 260 mile per hour mark. And finally, with the Huracan at the very end, if you have it maxed, of course, it's not so bad, but the shifts become really, really quick, and you got to be able to drive it where you can beat the boss time. If either car is right borderline on 9 second or 8.9 all the time, high 8.9s in the case of the F12, I would really recommend you to wait and get the last few fusions before you try it out, because you don't want to end up where you don't win the car at the very end. That would be a real disappointment. Harkness's Sesto Elemental is a good car. I think it drives a little bit like the LB Aventador, and it does beat Dyno when you drive it right. So it's a good car to definitely acquire. Well, I think that is more than enough rambling from me. I hope that you have now grasped how to set up and drive both of these 3-star T5 cars for Tempest 3 T5. Now, other T5 cars will work. The main key point you need to understand is you need a T5 car that will run in the mid 8s or better, preferably. once you get to the final part. The other thing is that obviously the LB Aventador, for example, may have a little bit of a struggle getting those 0 to 100s. I used actually an Aston Martin Vulcan with only 3 or 4 stage 6s, but I had the good ones. And I ran it through and had no problems beating Tier 5. So Tier 5 is the easiest out of all of them in Tempest 3. So good luck with Tier 5. Use these settings as you see fit. You can always adjust settings. My settings are not necessarily the best. They're just the settings that I used to accomplish what I believe to be the target numbers, and therefore I'm able to beat the tier in a safe manner. Um, I want to give credit to Bombhead Swaps, another player from Facebook. His name's Phil. He gave me the tier 5 numbers before I even had to tackle it. That's why I was willing to use the Vulcan and use a non-maxed car to try it out, because I already knew what my target numbers was. So I kind of did some test and tuning before I jumped in there. Now that you watch my video, you can do the same thing with your Huracan or F12 before you jump in and actually start the event. So that concludes the Tier 5 Tempest 3 cars for Huracan and F12. I hope you liked the video. I hope it was helpful to you. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. I will not be making them for every car because some of them I don't have. But if I can make a video, I will. And if you have a specific request, let me know. Thank you for watching as always, and good luck in finishing Tier 5 in Tempest 3.